everyone, and welcome back to the Fandoms podcast, your monthly home for discussion on games, TV, film, and everything in between. As usual, we're your host Joe, and the EA's most aspiring streamer Tom. That'll be me. Hi, Joe. How we doing?
Hello, how you doing?
Yeah, for context, this is probably going back a year ago when I was streaming Jedi Survivor, because it came out April last year. Yeah, they decided to push an update, and the update took forever. Yeah, that's why. Thanks, Jay, for that.
Excellent.
For today's podcast, we'll be talking about May's game releases, as usual. A bit of Helldivers 2, more studio closures, Star Wars news, of course, because it is the month of May, and a Star Citizen update. And it's 1 year of Fandoms podcast, by the way. This podcast marks 1 year from us deciding to just blab to how many people? I don't know. One?
But so 1 year of us rambling for about 2 hours to ourselves.
Yes.
My God.
One viewer? No? Zero? Does anybody watch this? I don't know. Who knows?
I was going to say, that's probably generous. No, honestly, guys, thank you to all of you that have stuck with us for the past year. I mean, I think it's fair to say, Tom, we just like to ramble on about the things that we love.
Yeah. That pretty much sums it up.
So,
yeah.
Just so happens that we share a lot of interests, and we thought we'd invite you guys along for the journey. So thank you for sticking with us, those of you that have. And hopefully here's to another year of great content for you guys to watch or listen to.
Yeah. So since we last spoke on the podcast, what have you been playing or watching?
Watching, I've just finished Clarkson's Farm Season 3. Absolutely loving that. I hope we get more, because it just cracks me up every time. What else have I been watching? I have watched... I've caught up on some of the latest Star Wars stuff, but we'll go into some of that later, I think. In terms of what I've been playing, I don't think I've played anything new this month, you know? Yeah, I think it's just been a bit of Empire at War, Euro Truck, which is all on the streams. Oh, I have started playing a little bit of Star Citizen again, which I know you're going to fill me in on all the deets later. Yes.
I wonder who you were playing Star Citizen with the other day. I can't remember.
Nah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it must have been me, wasn't it?
Well, that can't be right. We're clones. We're one and the same.
As for me, I've played a lot over the last month. Overwatch, Le Mans Ultimate, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Prison Architect, Lego Star Wars, Jedi Survivor, again, second playthrough on New Game Plus. And I was in a voice chat yesterday. This is obviously from recording. But they were talking about COD Zombies, so I went on Cold War COD Zombies. Yeah, as for watching, obviously, Bad Batch and the finale. Doctor Who, the new series of 911 is on Disney Plus as well. And on May 4th, so me playing Lego Star Wars was part of May 4th, because I said, I'm going to have a Star Wars day. I was free all day, so I played a bit of Lego Star Wars. I played... started Jedi Survivor, that's where the 2 Star Wars games comes in. Then I was like, do you know what? I want to watch Rogue One. So I watched Rogue One. And then I had a bit of time. And I was like, someone reminded me of the scene on Twitter of the X-Wing scene over the water from The Force Awakens.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I really love that scene. So I'm going to watch The Force Awakens. I know I'm probably going to get hate for watching it again. But regardless. And then I was like, I've watched The Force Awakens, I want to watch The Last Jedi. And then I watched The Last Jedi, and then I was like, I want to watch finish the trilogy. So I then watched the last one. Yeah, so I did.
You started off started off so strong, and then
I did a triple sequels, which everyone's going to hate on me for. But do you know what? There are some good scenes in them, like the little X-wing scene over the water in Force Awakens. I really love that.
Yeah. I'll give you that.
Despite its flaws, it does have some good action scenes. Story-wise, maybe not the best. Anyway, before pitchforks get brought out, shall I start everybody off with the latest gaming releases roundup? I cover these every single month, just so you guys have a bit of understanding what's coming out. They may have already been released by the time you're watching this, and it won't be absolutely everything, because if I covered that, it would take the entire podcast, and we don't want that, because we want to actually talk about things. So, May 6th, we have the Hades 2 Early Access on Steam. So this is the sequel to the godlike rogue-like dungeon crawler in the underworld of the Greek myth and its deep connections to the Dawn witchcraft. So fans of the Hades series, that's Early Access on Steam. On May 8th, we've got a 1.0 release from V Rising, which was previously in Early Access on Steam, and that's as a vampire survival action RPG adventure on PC. On May 13th, this one might be up to your street, Joe. Homeworld 3 is a real-time strategy, control and battle through fleet combat in fully 3D space for PC. Have you played Homeworld or not? Are you aware of it?
Yeah, a lot of my friends are sort of raving about it. They're big fans of the Homeworld series. I never got into it myself. I think I certainly have one of them, if not both, Homeworld and Homeworld 2. But I never really got into it. I think I fell out of love with strategy games for a little while, so I need to give it another go because I'm in my resurgence.
Yeah, I was going to say this sounds like a game that's similar to Empire at War, so I thought it might be a sort of game that you would be playing or plan to play.
Supposedly, like I say, I mean, I hear a lot that the stories in both of the previous two are very good. The actual like combat mechanics and everything are really fun. There's a couple of good mods out there as well, which I do know about. But yeah, I don't know. I never got into it, but I do want to give it another go.
Yeah.
Try and work my way through it, and enjoy it like everyone else does.
Yeah. So May 16th, we've got Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut for PC. So that's now a PC release. This does have multiplayer as well, but you will need a PSN account, which you'll have to connect to it for the multiplayer session. And that is a little indicator to what we may or may not be talking about first. May 21st. Now, this is basically a recent announcement, actually. This is X-Defiant. This is for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. Now, X-Defiant is a free-to-play, first-person arena shooter with Ubisoft's games as factions. So, I've playtested this over the last couple of years, and they've basically had to postpone the release of X-Defiant and X-Defiant. They kept... No one knew when it was releasing. It was one of those games where we were like, is it actually going to release? But now we have a what's called their pre-season release date on May 21st. So think of this game a little bit like COD. It's an arena shooter. COD or Battlefield, that sort of arcade shooter, but Ubisoft's factions. So you've got the Libertads from Far Cry 6, you've got the Phantoms from the Ghost Recon series, you've got the Echelon faction from Splinter Cell, you've got the Cleaners from the Division series, you've got DedSec from Watch Dogs, and it also includes 5 game modes and 14 maps. So each of these factions basically have abilities. So the Cleaners from the Division, you play the Division, haven't you, Joe? So you kind of know.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, so you'll know about the Cleaners. They're very fire focused, aren't they? Very flame thrower. I can word. Yes.
Take the fat out of your mouth. Try it again.
Flamethrower. So they've got some fire kind of abilities. The Libertads from Far Cry 6 have some healing abilities. The Phantoms from Ghost Recon have some shields and stuff. Splinter Cell is quite cool because you've got invisibility and stuff. DeadSeg, you've got hacking and some other things like that. So you can kind of see it's kind of a spin on all Ubisoft's famous and big franchises, but you're adding in the FPS element of something like COD or Battlefield. So that's going to be free to play, which I've been looking forward to for a long while on the 21st. And finally, we have the 23rd of May, which is a Nintendo release for Paper Mario: The 1,000-Year Door. This is actually a remake from 2004. It's a drawing-based art style and a turn-based battle system with an emphasis on timing the moves correctly. And they seem to be doing this a lot. I seem to remember the last few months we've had these Nintendo ones that are a bit of a remake that they've already released before, but it's a remake for the Switch, which is interesting. So that's game releases. Shall we start, Joe, with another dumpster fire? We love talking about dumpster fires here. So let's start another one, or talk about another one, not start another one.
Yeah. So for those of you that aren't aware, and if you're interested in gaming, how are you not aware at this point? But Helldivers 2 has gone through a little bit of controversy.
Yes.
So look, the initial thing was that PlayStation turned around on, I think it was a couple of weeks ago now at the time of recording anyway, turned around and said, hey, we're now making it mandatory. You have to link a PSN account to your Steam in order to play Helldivers 2. They dropped this on a Friday just as everyone went home, and then left the Helldivers devs to deal with it over the weekend. To give you a quick rundown, we can go into this and unpack it a little bit more in a second, but to give you a quick rundown, there was then 84,000 negative Steam reviews. The community absolutely went and review bombed that game.
That was approximately, I'm pretty sure it went up or something, but that was...
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
To be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if it was more than that, but,
yeah.
You know, even that is getting to ridiculous numbers.
It went from
people
positive to... I want to say
overwhelmingly negative.
No, it didn't go to overwhelming, it went to mostly negative.
Oh, okay. I thought I saw overwhelming, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, like it in the matter of like 24 hours, it dropped. And yeah, people banded together. The whole community banded together to obviously express their distaste and their anger over the decision. To try and unpack why people were so angry, for those of you that might not be aware, the PSN or PlayStation Network, I think it is,
yes,
is not available all around the world. So by enforcing you to sign up for an account, they have locked out, it's approximately 177 countries. I actually think it went up to about 180 at one point. But that's, you know, let's say a round number, 180 countries that do not have access. And in Sony's terms and conditions, you cannot use a VPN to sign up for a PSN account. So they completely lock these players out from being able to play the game, or were planning to, because they didn't actually switch it on yet. I think it was planned for the end of this month, so the 30th of May.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that would have meant that anyone who had a copy would not have been able to play the game anymore. They effectively would have been locked out. And then they went further and submitted a sort of, I guess you could call it a region lock request to Steam, so that you then couldn't buy the game in those 180 countries. Now, obviously, all that flack happened over the weekend. Sony, I think it was on the Monday following, then went back onto Twitter, or X, whatever you want to call it, and said, hey, look, we've heard what you're saying. Do you know what? We decided it was the wrong decision. We're going to wind it back. We're not going to force you to sign up. And everyone went, brilliant, great. Nice to see publishers listening to us for a change and hearing what we're trying to say. That's good.
Yeah.
However, the problem is, even though they've changed that, they haven't removed or I guess submitted another request to open up those roughly 180 countries that were still region locked and had the game delisted.
And that is
So you still can't.
That's still valid to when we're recording right now. It's still not
Yeah.
been done yet.
So you still can't buy the game. I don't know if it affects the people that already have the game. I would imagine not, because they've already got it and downloaded it. But
I thought I saw somebody that had the game, and it was in one of these countries, but it's grayed out for them. They can't launch it, I don't think.
oh, okay. Well, I mean that would explain it then.
Yeah.
Well, if that is the case, then yeah, then these people are still restricted again at time of recording from being able to play the game. What, for me, certainly is most frustrating about this is, you know, it kind of their tweet about saying, "Oh, we're gonna walk it back. We're not gonna roll this out." You know, we've heard what you said. Well, it kind of feels a little bit like virtue signaling. You know, they're saying it's pacify people, but the reality is they're not doing anything to fix what's already happened. I've seen a lot of people blaming the developers for this change as well, and we do have to stress this is a change that was pushed for by Sony, and the developers have come forward and said they didn't want to do this. However, in a slightly controversial move, I'm going to say that the devs are not entirely blameless in this whole situation, because they I can't think of his name. I think he's one of the lead devs anyway. But he came out on Twitter and said, you know, this was in the contract that we signed with Sony when we went to them as to be our publisher. So they knew this was coming. I think it was at least a month or so before the game released. And they still released it with that line in the game when you first sign up and log in that says this will not be mandatory to link an account. They knew that would change, and they knew that Sony would push for that. So I don't think the devs are entirely blameless in this whole situation. I think they should have warned us from the get-go.
That's funny, because I swear the community manager basically said, we didn't really want this either. Go and basically refund the game. That's what he said on their Discord.
Yeah, I think it was one of those situations, at least from what I've picked up from reading bits and pieces online, I think it's one of those situations where Sony, being the big multi-million-dollar publisher, kind of strong-armed them into putting this clause in. You know, oh yeah, this will have to happen, and they were forced into it against their will, effectively. But you know, like I say, where I think the blame lies with them is they didn't come forward to us then, or put out some public statement and say, look, it's not a requirement at the moment, but it will be at some point in the near future. We don't know exactly when that is yet, but it will be, you know, and we will force people to sign up for these accounts.
A lot of people pointed out that it actually does tell you on the Steam page, it says this game requires a PSN account in order for you to play.
Didn't when it launched. They updated it to say that after the announcement.
No, as in on the Steam store.
Yeah, no, that's
I know they updated the FAQ on Sony's website. I'm not sure about the Steam store page though.
I'm sure it didn't, because people have been obviously posting screenshots from prior to the changes. I'm sure.
Yeah, the screenshots I've shown, the before and after that I've seen is the FAQ on, I think, Sony's website where they changed it. I haven't seen it before and after on the Steam page though, and that's where lots of people were like, "Oh, we've known this for ages."
Be wrong.
But to be fair, when you fire up from a PC gamer perspective, which we both are, we both play Helldivers. When you fire it up for the first time, there's a skip button. What do? You press the skip button, and they said there were problems with it. I have a PSN account because I have a PlayStation, so I did initially want to link it, but from what I remember, it didn't work. So I was like, fine, skip. And then that's that. I think lots of people kind of brushed over it, thinking, okay, it's always going to be a skip. That's fine, whatever. And then they just kind of revert it back partway through the game's life cycle, which I sort of understand people's outrage. But I think a lot of people have misunderstood the outrage, because people are saying, oh, you know, for Sea of Thieves, you've got to connect your Xbox account. How is this any different? Well, it's not. It's nothing to do with that. But I think that the main outrage is actually linked to the country region lock restrictions is the main primary issue rather than the mandatory switch on. Although the going from an optional to a mandatory thing partway through the game's life cycle when it's afterly launched, yeah, that's frustrating. You know, and I can see that. If I didn't have a PlayStation or PSN account, I would be like, yeah, that's a little bit frustrating now you're telling me that. But you've also got to think of the people that don't have the consoles, additional, you know, which I don't come into that category. I think mass majority of PC players don't have a console, they just have a PC. And them to think, oh, I have to sign up to a PlayStation account, but I don't own a PlayStation. Why do I have to sign up for this? So I kind of get that frustration.
Yeah, I think as well, a very valid concern I saw being shared quite a lot, especially in like, all of the negative reviews, was a lot of people's opposition to this was because of just how many data breaches Sony has had in recent years. I can't remember them now, but there was, you know, sort of a list of bullet points of like a dozen different data breaches, all within the last sort of dozen years. So, you know, I can understand people's concern there, certainly from a safety perspective, where, I mean, look, Sony's a big company, it is going to be targeted. We all know that. That's just the way that, unfortunately, these people work. But if you're very concerned about security, you're not going to want to open an account and put in your details with a company that has a proven track record of poor security. I kind of get where they're coming from in that, but
I've also seen that point of view, but every company has breaches, no matter who you are. Microsoft has them, Valve have them. So any if you have that concern, why have you signed up for anything online? Basically.
To be fair, I've seen that counter argument as well. I see both sides of it. I guess it all depends on your stance on it, your personal feelings on you know, online security. Certainly, some people will be more comfortable with just as few accounts as possible. It's a tough one, but like I say, I mean, going back to what we were saying, I think the biggest issue here is the fact that the game is still delisted in those roughly 180 countries.
Yeah.
You know, they rolled that back, what was it, a week or two ago now?
Yeah.
They've had plenty of time. I mean, let's be honest, they had time to submit the region lock over the weekend.
Think about how quickly that region lock went on and how long now it's taken for them to do it
that's,
on the reverse.
That's the thing as well. They didn't submit it with the announcement. That came like a day or half a day later.
Yeah. So,
you know, they had time to submit that after the fact. They haven't gone back
and actually
and removed it.
By the look of it, Sony have done the exact same thing with, this is going back to one of the game releases I mentioned, Ghost of Tsushima, because someone said, oh yeah, I've bought a key, I think it was off Greenman Gaming, and they're like, it's been refunded to me. Why Steam done this? And Steam have basically, since Steam support came back and basically said, this isn't us, this is Sony. We're just doing what Sony have asked. So they're doing the same with almost Tsushima. It's not the exact same scenario, but it's
I think
the same deal.
I think what makes that situation a little bit better, like the tiniest amount better than this, is that they said that from the start.
Yeah, and
I don't think Helldivers 2 would have been such a problem if they'd said from the start, "Hey, look, this is what it's going to be."
Yeah,
people would have gone, "Okay, fine, I'm just not going to get it."
And to be fair, for Ghost of Tsushima, it's only required if you plan to do multiplayer, and I reckon 99% of players are just going to do the single player, not going to go to the multiplayer anyway.
Yeah.
And I also heard something else with all this, with Helldivers, which was the fact that they were pushing this so they could prove to investors there were more people that were signed up to a PSN account, which I think is the most scummiest thing ever, because it's basically false advertising, because half of those players that have signed up that are on PC would have only used it for Helldivers, and then that's it. It's not a real representation of their player base per se.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, when it comes to investors and stuff, numbers talk. Yeah. They like seeing numbers. They like seeing big numbers. That's a really good sign to them. But you're right. It's a really scummy way of going about it, and I don't like that. I think to kind of summarise this whole unfortunate situation, let's say, from us, we're going to join the rest of the Helldivers 2 community. Sony, please listen to what we're saying. Please, please, please remove the region lock. Submit the request, change it back, let people play the game again. It is a fantastic game. People have been loving it from the second it released. And if you open it up to these countries again, people are going to keep putting money into this game. You can obviously buy super credits. There will be people out there that will buy it to get all the cosmetics and all that you can get. They'll use it to buy game passes or season passes, whatever they're calling it, for the new war bonds and things like that. People will invest in the game, and I'm sure that as the publisher, Sony's going to get a little kickback from that. That's probably fair to say, isn't it? So people will keep investing in the game. Listen to your community. You heard us once. Hear us again. You need to roll back the region lock.
I think you might have heard of this, but you know the negative reviews things. It's been made into a cape in Helldivers.
Yes, I did hear about that. I really love that that's a thing.
I think it was made by a fan or somebody, and then I don't know the full story, and then it was just the devs loved it, so they put it in. I think they also did a major order for people to revert their reviews back after they did the switch.
I don't think that was actually in the game. I think that was literally just like someone photoshopped something together.
Yeah. Regardless, it was pretty cool to see. Anyway,
but yeah, I agree. It was, like I say, it was a big community goal, and if there's one thing that Helldivers taught us, it's how to work together as a community.
Yeah.
So we went, okay, we'll take that lesson and shove it where the sun don't shine. Teach you a lesson this time. You know, I like that. It's community coming together and showing the big dogs, actually, no, we're not going to roll over and take your BS. We're not going to stand for it. And I love that. Talking of community reactions to things, I want to talk about another little bit of drama that's come out in the light of this. And what brought it to my attention was I saw someone doing like a bit of a video essay on this whole situation.
Yeah.
But they also compared it to, and I'm just interested to hear your thoughts on this because I'm not sure that I agree. But someone compared it to Elite Dangerous 2. Now, are you familiar with Elite Dangerous?
I've played Elite Dangerous, yeah. And then I played Star Citizen, and I've never played it ever again.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you know with Elite Dangerous that everything that is in the game is in the game. They've done paid updates which have added things like landing on planets and then being able to get out your ship and walk around.
So, B-Tech Star Citizen.
For God's sake. Better game. But they've added those things in, and that they have been paid DLCs, which I think is fair. But they've never added in new content in terms of like ships and stuff. I don't think they've ever added in new weapons. Anything that they have added in has been an update to the game for everyone. It's been free, which is great, and I think it's a really good business model that a lot of developers could learn from. However, the controversy at the moment is, I think towards the end of last year, they announced a new ship finally coming out. First new ship added to the game. It was going to be the Python Mark II. What they have done is they've done a kind of an early access system that you can access it for real world currency. So they have like a premium currency you can get in the game. It's called ARX, I think it was. I'm going off memory at the moment, which is never good. But ARX was just used for cosmetic upgrades. So you could buy skins. There was a couple of like ship modifications that you could get, like physical changes. So it might change like a wing on it or something like that. But yeah, you could buy things like that, and it was a nice little thing. But you really didn't need to, and I dare say most people really didn't bother.
Yeah.
Well, they've added in the Python Mark II, as I say, early access for ARCs, and it works out about, I think the ship works out something like £25 based on how much ARCs you need. But they adjusted the price to the ARCs, and the bundles you can get, the only bundle you can get that will give you enough ARCs to buy the ship is the £32 bundle. So I can see that people are a little bit annoyed that, okay, to early access you've got to pay more to get the ship, and then what are you going to do with the rest of it? Because it has no other purpose other than the cosmetics. But my argument is this is just for the early access. The general release is going to be in August, and you'll be able to buy it just as you can with any other ship via in-game currency. Buy it, you'll be able to kit it out as normal. There will be no difference. It just means that a couple of people get it a couple of months early. I don't know about you, but I don't have an issue with that.
See, to me, just hearing that from you, it seems like they want to do both ways. They haven't gone consistent. Because either, for me personally, they should have either made it a DLC, as it's extra content, that's what they've done with everything else, and had it just DLC, not early access, and then everyone else can have it. It seems like they want to do it both ways, but it seems like they've already picked one way for previous content. So to me, pick one, pick a lane. Either do DLC, or have it free for everybody in-game. Not both. Because to me that just yes, it's the first vehicle, but it's not the first piece of content they've ever introduced in the game. I'd be more okay with this if it was the first piece of additional content in the game, but it's not. So why are they trying to do both? I get the sort of early access kind of perk, but to me that's a little bit inconsistent.
It's a bit of an older game now. It is getting a bit of an older game. It's been out for a good few years now. And obviously, as I say, because the cosmetics don't really have much, I don't know exactly. I don't know what the finances are behind it. But I don't imagine there's a lot of people buying ARCs and using it to buy these things, right? So I can understand that there might be a want within Frontier at the moment to, drum up a little bit of extra cash to help the ongoing development of the game. They are still developing it. They're putting out story updates, which obviously means changes to the universe and everything. That's great, and I can understand it from that perspective.
Yeah.
Additionally, this isn't the only ship you can now get through the store. They're now also selling pre-built ships. So if you want to do mining, you can go and buy a mining ship with all your mining gear and internals and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Pre-set up and ready to go. So you don't need to go out exploring to go and get X, Y, and Z from this station and then go and get these guns from there and da-da-da-da-da.
Now you say that.
It's set up and ready to go.
Now you say that, I seem to remember you have to buy the base ship and then you've got to buy all the upgrades to do whatever you want to do. I think.
So you buy a ship, then you're not guaranteed to have everything you need on that station. So then you're probably going to have to go and fly to another station to get X, Y, and Z pieces.
So to me, that's the gameplay loop.
Yeah.
That's shortcutting the gameplay loop.
I'm not sure. I guess it depends on what you want to do. Because the game is very much, I guess, in a similar vein to Star Citizen, which I know you're more familiar with. It's very much open in terms of your playstyle. The game is what you make of it.
You can do fighter stuff, you can do cargo, you can do mining. Is exploration a thing?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good way. So I don't know the exact number now, but a couple of years ago they were saying only, because it's a scale model of the Milky Way galaxy, right?
I know
of the galaxy, I think only like 1% of it have been explored.
Yeah.
So you can still go and explore. You can find stuff. You can get scan data, and then you can sell that scan data.
Yeah.
So you up your exploration rank, which has its own sort of ranking system.
Yeah.
And then obviously you can still make money, so you can still go and buy more ships and upgrades and what have you. Interestingly, one of the things I really like is if you're the first person to discover a planet, your name is then attached to that planet. So whenever someone else flies into it, it says discovered by Joe or discovered by Tom. I think that's a really nice little touch. And as I say, there's a lot still out there that people haven't found that they can attach their names to. I think you can get it on systems as well, which is really cool. But I would argue it doesn't kind of game the gameplay loop because there's another thing called again, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's a thing that they call engineering. And you have to go out and find special NPCs, and you'll do a special mission for them, whatever that turns out being, and they will give you access to much better gear. Yeah. So it might be an improvement for your laser weapons. So they might not heat up as quickly, so you've got a longer duration, or they'll put out more damage, or they might have a fire effect on it, so it's damage over time, I guess. You can still go and find the engineers, and there's no way of keeping ahead on that. And the engineers, I think, are probably the big gameplay jump that you've got. Because if you want to do exploration, you want to go and get the engineer that gives you extra range on your jumps. Yeah. You can jump to more remote systems. You can jump further in less time. There's a lot still to do, even if you buy one of these pre-built ships. So, again, sorry, we've gone off on a bit of a tangent. Again, I don't think buying pre-built ships or early access to a ship is that bad in the grand scheme of things. I mean, let's take Star Citizen, for example. How much is it going to cost you to buy all those ships?
See, I wasn't going to bring that up because it is slightly different for Elite Dangerous. Because, as I said earlier, I think they should have sticked with one method of how they do things rather than trying to do a bit of mix and match. That's all I think. I'm relatively okay with the early access thing, but it does bring in the sort of FOMO thing, so people are kind of like, well, I don't want to miss out on this early, so let me just buy that. But then again, it's like the editions that we spoke about last month about game editions and the early access period. It's almost the same, but I honestly think it should have been DLC because that's what they've done with every single other piece of post-launch content. Yeah. I think for games, when you think of additional content, are you going to have, what's the sort of content that you want to do? Is some of this going to be paid? Is some of this going to be free content? Kind of structure that. Then I feel that this is a bit of a switch in direction. That's all. Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, the fact that it's coming out for free from August, for everyone, I think that kind of, at least for me, that makes it okay. But then I'm quite happy to wait. I mean, I on the FOMO point, it makes me laugh because I must admit, I saw that it would come out for early access. I saw that you could buy it, and there was a little bit of me that went, oh, I could get that. Yeah, right now. I can get that right now. And then I went, no, hang on a minute. I haven't played for a while. I haven't played for months. I don't need to do this. But there was a little bit of me, I must admit. Yeah. But anyways, I've ranted for long enough about questionable decisions from developers and publishers. I'm going to hand over to you because you've got some stuff. Shall we talk about questionable decisions from studios and publishers then? Oh yeah, let's move from questionable decisions to questionable decisions. Yeah. So, games closures. It's been a theme in the games industry for the past, I'm going to say 2 years now. It's been a long time. Thousands of people, probably millions of people actually, Thousands of studios have closed. Loads of people have lost their jobs. And as someone that somehow wants to creep into the games industry through my graphic design, it makes me think, should I even bother? So let's start with Xbox. Xbox have decided that they're going to shut down Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog, and Roundhouse. And I'm also going to talk about Take-Two Interactive as well, because they've done some layoffs as well, and some closures, which I'll get to in a minute. So Arcane Austin are responsible for Redfall. We've briefly mentioned Redfall before. I think when we were talking about performance issues with Jedi Survivor, I also tagged it on to that one. You probably don't remember, Joe.
It does ring a bell.
Yeah. So that's what I talked about. So Arcane Austin were behind Redfall. And Roundhouse with this assisted with Redfall. And they've closed that studio now. So the people that might be wondering, what's going to happen to the Blade game? Don't worry, that's been made by Arcane Lyon in France. So, different studio branch.
Yeah.
So that's safe. Arcane Austin, however, in the US, is gone. Tango Gameworks. This was a big surprise. They worked on The Evil Within, Ghostwire Tokyo, and more recently, Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush, not only did it win awards, it's been nominated for a lot at the Game Awards, and for the most recent, the lovely British BAFTA Game Awards. And closing a studio with a game that's done so well is very controversial because the internet isn't happy. No, they are not. So Hi-Fi Rush was that rhythm game, basically, with the little cat. I'm smiling because I like cats. Anyway. Yeah. So they closed that studio, which everyone, they bought. I can't remember who previously owned Tango Gameworks. This might have been actually to do with Bethesda, potentially. Or some sort of acquisition that Xbox have done, and then they've shut them down. Alpha Dog is probably less known because they did mobile games. More recently, Mighty Doom, which came out, is the recent title. People have kind of flipped this on Phil Spencer's head and said, because there's a video of him from a few years ago of him doing an interview basically saying, we won't shut down small studios. We want to allow them to have this creative freedom and breathing space and all this kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, you've said this a few years ago, but now, yes, businesses change, finances change, but it seems like Xbox are buying stuff and then shutting them down, which I don't understand why. What are you thinking about all this so far, Joe?
Just on the point about Phil Spencer saying, they're focusing on these more indie games and they're supporting them, and then obviously not.
Yeah.
It does beg the question of, well, why are you buying these studios if you don't have the resources to support them? Because that's obviously what it's coming down to, isn't it? Is they're buying them, then going, actually, no, this isn't a good investment. Let's just close it off and focus on something else.
Yeah.
Well, surely that should have been part of their sort of investing into this studio or buying this studio. Is they should have been thinking, okay, well, actually, do we want this game? Can we afford to fund this game amongst all the other things? Because they seem to have bought up a lot of studios very quickly. I seem to remember it being quite quickly anyway.
They've got a big portfolio of studios, yes.
And I get it, Microsoft is not a small company, but they have overreached themselves. Have they bought too much and then sort of had an poop moment?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, and kind of gone,
Yeah.
oh, well, hang on, we need to dial this back a bit. Well, you know, it begs the question of why did no one realise this before they bought everything? Surely they went, we have a budget of X, let's look at what we want to buy and invest in. Oh, that looks really good, let's go for that. Just, I don't know, it just, the mind boggles.
So, in an email to staff, Xbox Game Studios head Matt Booty said this. Said the company was closing the developers in order to focus on resources on high-impact titles and the rest of Bethesda's portfolio of games. To double down on the franchises and invest to build new, unique ones requires us to look across the business to identify the opportunities that are best positioned for success. The reprioritization of titles resources means a few teams will be realigned to others and that some of our colleagues will be leaving us. Which also reminds me, the people from Roundhouse who assist with Redfall, their staff have actually been migrated to ZeniMax Online Studios, which is obviously a Bethesda studio. So they've been sort of migrated, but everyone else I think might have just been let go. This seems to be a common thing now in the gaming industry. It seems like the big publishers don't want to risk new things because the reprioritization of these more high impact stuff, this is exactly what EA did when they said, we don't want the Mandalorian game. I know I'm bringing it up again, but it's the same thing. They wanted to focus on current IPs that did well instead of a new IP that may or may not do well. I think
it just that makes me think of the EA's first Star Wars Battlefront, the sort of the new one. I think that kind of mentality was there even back then, because they went with Star Wars Battlefront, an established brand, an established IP. Yes, they changed the core gameplay because it is a very different game.
Yeah,
but they went with that established IP because it's a safer bet.
Yeah.
But to sort of on the flip side of this, I think that's very much a kind of attitude of blinkers on. Because, I mean, looking at recent things, look at Helldivers 2.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, it's a follow-up to a game. But I would say probably 90% of us playing that game had never heard of Helldivers 1.
No. I mean,
certainly had never played it.
It was top down as well. The gameplay was completely different. Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? It's not an established IP for most of us, and yet we've all seen this and gone, my God, I need a bit of that. I need to be involved in that game. I've got to play that with my mates. It's going to be a great time. But it's proof, that game alone is proof that new titles, if you put the time and effort into them to make something good, they will soar. Because in those first couple of weeks, I think it's fair to say it was probably the most played game on Steam.
Yeah. And talking of Helldivers, I don't know if you know this, you probably do. Arrowhead pitched it to Microsoft. It was going to be Halo Helldivers 2.
Yes, I have heard this.
Yes. And people are mad.
Like an ODST theme.
They're like, oh my God, we could have had ODSTs.
I would have loved that. That would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, like, I think that's proof that all of this fear about putting time and effort into a new IP or into smaller studios and teams and games, smaller games in general, I think it's unfounded. Yes, not every single one is going to work. You can say that about any industry, right?
Yeah.
Not every single product is going to work. You are going to have some that flop. However, going back to what you were saying, I think they're being too cautious now. There's too much. That's a bit of a risk. We can't do that because, like I say, Arrowhead took a risk. They did something different, and it became probably the best loved game of the year. They
were unprepared for the amount of people for their servers. They had to upgrade their servers, remember?
Yeah. it goes to show these smaller teams can put out something amazing.
And it's so different, the corporate mentality versus the gamer mentality. I constantly see online on Twitter or any social media saying we need more original titles and games and new IPs, but the corporate world is pushing against that, saying no, we're going to keep with what we know is successful. But I also think these layoffs and everything like this is also down to the fact that it's clearly costing a lot more. I'm again bringing back what we discussed last month, which is one thing I didn't bring up when we talked about Star Wars Outlaws pricing, and now Assassin's Creed Shadows pricing, which by the way is the exact same for Assassin's Creed. I think it's because of the money. I think it's now taking so much money to make some of these games, they have to rehash it, or the fact that this is why they're layoffs, because they're spending so much money trying to make them, and then they're trying to get it back, and sometimes that means layoffs. And I think this is also linked to the pandemic, because gaming industry was booming then, and then we go post-pandemic, everything's sort of gone almost back to normal, a little bit wobbly. We're a lot more stable now than we were a year ago, but yeah, I think the gaming industry has had this huge shift of everything's now a lot more expensive to make, but they don't have the money to pay everybody to do it, which is also a consideration from a gamer perspective that you may not consider, which I think has also happened.
No, you're right. You're right. The cost of everything is increasing. I mean, we've certainly talked before about the fact that we are in a cost of living crisis at the moment. Yeah. The price of things are skyrocketing. Obviously, the cost. I mean, there's multiple costs involved. Staff for one, but you've also got to think about, things like electricity for the buildings.
Yeah.
The server costs, because they are going to have servers for pushing out updates and what have you, or certainly online services as well. There's the point I'm trying to make is there's a number of costs involved that, well, I guess certainly I wasn't thinking about, but yes, that drives up their overheads. It is tough. It really is tough, and it's a shame that it's affecting the games industry so much, because I think we're going to lose a hell of a lot of talent.
Yeah.
A lot of talent comes up through these smaller indie developers. Yeah. Losing those people before they have a chance to show themselves might actually turn them off the industry.
Yeah.
We might have an absolute gem out there that could have made the next game of the year, and now they've just been pushed out, and they don't want anything to do with it, as a hypothetical. But it's really tough, and we can sit here and theory craft about what's going on and what are the causes for all this, but my heart really goes out to the developers that are losing their jobs. Not just developers either. There will be back-end teams as well. There will be support staff. There will be customer service staff as well. All of them are losing jobs, and it's such a shame to lose all of these people. Whether we know them or not, whether they have created things that we love or not, they should have the chance to put their work out there and show the world what they can do. And it's such a shame that that's been taken from them.
And this is probably why a lot of indie studios are probably going to crop up now. And these indie studios are going to be like, we're going to be very careful if a publisher approaches us to try and buy, because we might be a thing in a few years' time. But I think some other indie studios are doing well, and there's probably more of the way to go as well. Sort of talking of indie studios, because Take-Two, who I did mention earlier, did some more layoffs. They have a sort of they have their own label for publishing indie games. So Take-Two earlier, I think in the month, or it might have been a little bit earlier. So they're laying off 5% of its workforce, approximately 600 employees, cancelling several projects currently in development as part of a cost-cutting initiative across the company. And the quote for this is, as part of these efforts, the company is rationalising its pipeline and eliminating several projects in development and streamlining its organisational structure, which will eliminate headcount and reduce future hiring needs. So Private Division is Take-Two's label for publishing indie games, and they're sort of shutting down too. Roll7, and they are known for Ollie Ollie World and Roller Drum. And then we've got Intercept Games. Uh-oh. Intercept Games. What do they make? What early access game have they made? Kerbal Space Program
I don't
2.
know, you'd have...
Kerbal Space Program 2. Uh-oh. Oh no. Uh-oh. So, they address this. On April 18th, Private Division successfully launched Moon Studios' No Rest for the Wicked. The label continues to make updates to the Kerbal Space Program 2 and plans to release Weta Workshop Game Studios' Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game in the second half of 2024. So for those people that don't actually know, that's Lord of the Rings game is actually coming this year. There you go. But the Kerbal Space Program Twitter has spoken out. On May 1st, they said, "We're still hard at work on KPS2. We'll talk more when we can." And then they basically said the full statement of Take-Two, which I've basically just all mentioned there. But yeah, this is a concern because it is an early access game, is KPS2. And if I know the KPS2 community, or just the KPS community, they ain't going to let that lie. They're going to fight until the very end because they're very much passionate and making KPS2 what it should be. It's definitely an established IP that a lot of people kind of love, and it does make me think, what happens where if Take-Two suddenly decide we're shutting this down? A few things could happen with this. They could move devs, so a new developer could pick this up and, you know, whatever. Or they could shut it down. Now, I own Kerbal Space Program 2. And I looked in the way that this is more of a personal concern than anything, on how they would deliver something. If they shut it down, what would happen, right? They would issue refunds. But what about the key resellers? Right? I'm talking CD keys, instant gaming, all that kind of stuff. CD keys' policy is you can't refund it unless you haven't redeemed it and it's within 2 weeks. So what happens then if the game's completely mute to those people? Because I bought my key from CD keys.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that consideration. If they shut down the game, well, then what happens? Do I get my money back or do I not? We don't know.
I would imagine you will. That's got to be covered under consumer protection laws.
Yeah, probably. I suppose that refund policy is probably for more general sort of keys. Yeah. But yeah, for something that would shut down like that,
a key for a game that no longer exists,
even if it is still on my account, you know, because I also get that it's attached to my Steam library. But yeah, it is concerning for the KPS2 community. It's not very well received as KPS2, to be honest, versus KPS1. But they are trying to do their hardest to really improve it and make the game what it should be. But it is a kind of huge concern. In fact, because of this, people have been review bombing it. Let me have a look at what it is, because I think it's gone really downhill as the overall reviews. Overwhelmingly negative. Oh no.
Oh dear.
Yeah, with today's announcement of Take-Two, no future for this project. As close as possible officially being abandonware, do not buy under any circumstances. Yep. everybody's basically saying avoid this game. It isn't good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's concerning from Take-Two Interactive. But of course, their love child is not touched, of course. I'm of course talking about Rockstar Games. Yes. They're not going to
that makes millions every year.
They're not going to touch that. Not for layoffs. No, they're not.
No.
Yeah, so that's the sort of layoffs scenario that's happened over the last couple of months. I hope we see no more layoffs, please, game developers.
Yeah.
Or just cut some of the top men out. I know you don't want to do it, but maybe you should.
But Tom, what about their multi-million-dollar bonus every year? What will they do without it?
Put that towards 5 new employees.
No, that's got to be silly talk.
Dear.
Dear.
Do you want us to talk about Star Wars?
I do want to talk about Star Wars. However, I'm going to do a quick fire round because I'm aware that you have a lot to talk about on the Star Citizen front.
Yeah.
So we'll go through these quite quickly. We won't dwell on any. So on the 4th of June, we have Star Wars Hunters coming. For those of you not aware, Star Wars Hunters is a mobile game.
Sorry.
It's a mobile game. I think it's also coming out on Switch, isn't
Yes. So I talked earlier about X-Defiant, about how it kept getting delayed and we didn't know if it was one of these games that would never ever release. This was a similar situation. This was soft launched. So Star Wars Hunters is available in some countries, not in the UK. Guess where the studios are located, Joe?
Where?
The UK. It's not even launched in its own country that it's been developed in.
Brilliant. I love it.
Natural Motion
Ridiculous.
and Zynga, who obviously are known for their mobile games. Zynga have actually been acquired by who we've just been talking about, Take-Two.
Oh.
I didn't know that until I went on their website probably a month or two ago. Yeah, interesting.
Okay.
But yeah, as you were saying, it's an arena shooter with all these sort of Star Wars sort of characters in the Star Wars universe. Yeah, I don't know how much you've seen about this.
I've only really watched the trailer. I think I don't remember seeing it before you showed me this trailer actually. So this is quite new to me. However,
yeah,
from watching the trailer at least, it looks like it's going to be all new characters. It doesn't look like anyone that we know in there yet.
No.
Might be that they add them in down the line, I don't know, but it looks like completely independent new characters. But it looks like a fun concept. I'll probably give it a go myself.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it. But talking of things that have been delayed and announcements and so on and so forth, it made me think of something else, which is Star Wars Eclipse.
Yeah.
We got that announcement. God, that was a few years ago now. Is it in my source? Did I put in there when the announcement came out? Do a quick scroll through. But anyways, whilst I'm having a look, the point is we haven't heard anything about Star Wars Eclipse since it was announced.
Yeah.
And what's happening?
Nobody knows.
The question on a lot of people's lips, it looks like, because I started doing a little bit of looking, is everyone's kind of going, well, what's going on with this? We got a massive announcement. It was looking like it was going to be a fantastic game, and it's just kind of dropped off the radar. Well, at the end of last year, there was a report that said, it is still being worked on. It's been worked on between two teams, one in Paris, one in Montreal. They are making progress on the game. However, it's still years away from being released. I think one article I read suggested it might be sort of 26, 27 that we might start to see it.
What I'm reading here is 2025 or later.
Oh, well, there you go. So it might even be sooner than that. I think the point is that there was again, I think due to layoffs and shifts and all these fun things that we've been talking about today, there was a number of pauses on development. I think it was, I'm going to say air quotes, shelved for a while, just whilst things were moving around and being shaken up, but they did come back to it, they did continue. But obviously these constant delays have just kind of disrupted any momentum they've got in the development cycle, which is why it's still, you know, at least a couple of years away, if not more. But the team has come forward, said they are working on it again. They don't envision any disruptions in the near future. So hopefully we'll start seeing more coming out about this very soon. But yeah, Eclipse is one that interests me. I think it was supposed to be set in the High Republic era.
Yes.
And the trailer seems to focus very much on this almost cult that we see. And it just, I don't know, it seemed like a really cool concept. We don't know anything about the game because it's so early in the development cycle.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see more.
Makes me think. Game devs, when you announce a project, please make sure the project is a maximum of 2 years away. So when you do hype us up, we actually have something to look forward to, because this isn't the only Star Wars project that you've done this with, and you've just let it rest for so long to the point where it's not, we don't even know when it's coming out. Obviously referencing the KOTOR remake, which we discussed last month. But yeah, I just feel that you're announcing stuff way too early, and you're getting us hyped, and now we're not hyped because we don't actually know when it's actually coming out, and there's no regular marketing for it because, well, you're working on it.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, certainly with Eclipse, when the trailer drops, I went to the website, I signed up to the newsletter. I was like, yes, I want to know everything about this. This looks great. I have received 0 emails. 0 emails from that team.
Yeah.
I want to know more. There's, I mean, obviously, the point I'm making is there's been no updates since they dropped that trailer. I think they dropped it at E3 as well. So, you know, it was a big sort of reveal moment. And then nothing. I totally agree with you. I would like to see them announcing these games maybe a little bit later in the development cycle, so that we get more regular updates on what's coming, what we're going to be seeing, what kind of game we're getting, and when it's going to be coming. Yeah. I mean, we've all heard my rants about Space Marine 2. You knew it was coming. Yeah. We've all heard my rants about Space Marine 2. There's obviously been delays with that, which has upset me, but they are continuing to give me regular updates on this game. They've announced it at a point in the development cycle where they were like, we're close to being done. And it's only because they wanted to polish it that they've delayed it. But I think it's a very good way to release a game, because they have ensured that us as the community, the fans that are waiting for this, are kept updated at every stage, and they are doing everything they can to make sure that we are happy. And this is, you know, that we get a game that we love.
And this is why I said a maximum of 2 years, because I think 2 years is an okay sort of timeline, because it's that's close enough for you to think, oh yeah, in a couple of years we're going to have that. Obviously they're not going to reveal too much later, but at least it's an initial announcement. We know it's coming. Next year we're probably going to get something more, and then it's going to be full on the year that's going to be announced. You know, Rockstar did it perfectly with GTA 6, because obviously they announced it last year. It's a 2026. No, 5. No, 6. Which is next year, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, they...
5. Yes, 2025.
It was in a report to investors, I think it was.
Yeah, 2023, they announced it.
I think the announcement...
Yeah, 2 years.
Sorry. The report to investors was that it's going to be released 3rd quarter 2026. So that's what we're aiming for. I'm sure
which is actually new news, because they've thinned down the release date. Yes, I was actually going to mention that at some point today, right at the end of the podcast, but we'll discuss it now. Fine.
I jumped in early.
Yeah. Obviously, I didn't discuss with you that we were going to talk about that. It was just in my mind. So Q3 is September to December 1st for a release schedule. I seem to remember, I don't know if it was me, I don't know if I read it somewhere, but I seem to remember either I predicted it or I saw it on Twitter saying, oh, it might be releasing in March. Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah.
I realise I'm blinding everyone watching at the moment.
That's wrong.
I'm just trying to read through.
That's all we know. It's just a slight thin down, which is nice, so we sort of know when it's going to come out, roughly. A Q is always good, because it thins us down instead of us thinking, when in that year? Oh yeah, then.
No, so, sorry, I'm blinding myself and everyone watching at the moment to double check what I was reading about the release date. I may have been wrong, it may have actually been 2025. Yeah, autumn 2025. I was slightly wrong. But it's very exciting.
Sorry, did I say Q3? That September to December's Q4, I think. Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah, sorry, I'm getting confused with a certain 4.0 roadmap that I'll be discussing later, which is Q3 2024, and the fall or autumn, because we don't use the word fall here, we use the word autumn. And it was autumn that I sort of researched and said, okay, well, it's September to December 1st. That's officially for autumn. So by the end of the year, we'll be having GTA 6. Anyway, more Star Wars stuff, yes?
Yes. Anyone who is a fan of Star Wars will know we have our big fandom holiday on May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. On May the 4th, we always get some kind of news, something gets announced, and we usually get some kind of show, or at least we have been since obviously Disney had taken over. On May the 4th, Tales of the Empire dropped. Tom, how did you find it?
Pretty good. As I said right at the start of the podcast, I had a whole Star Wars day for May 4th. And we got Tales of the Empire. Very good.
Yeah, Tales of the Empire. I loved what it was, but I wanted more. I wanted more
ask more questions.
Look, I love the animation style, right? And I'm sad. I was sad when Clone Wars ended. I'm sad that the Bad Batch has ended, and I want more in that style. I love it. I think it's fantastic, and this really early Empire stuff looks amazing in that style. I would love to see more Thrawn. I'm always wanting more Thrawn content. To be fair, he's one of my favourite villains in Star Wars.
I think I think I'm starting to get the same opinion because of Thrawn now, because when I was watching and I was thinking, Thrawn's all about the voice. I love hearing Thrawn speak. It's so satisfying just to listen to.
You're right, he is satisfying to listen to, but it's also just how calculated and cold everything seems coming from him. It's just right. It is perfection. And I just want more Thrawn content, and I'd love to see him early Empire, early on when he joins the Empire. I would love that. I would love more of that. But also, on the flip side, like the Inquisitor story, to me it just felt a little bit rushed. I would have liked a little bit more to kind of flesh those two stories out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I do get it. They are meant to be sort of short and 6 episodes.
Yeah.
Which, it was 6 episodes, wasn't it? Yeah, which I did binge watch in the entirety of that May 4th day. Yes.
Yes, so did I.
I didn't spread them out. I watched them all.
Yeah, I watched it all in the morning.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, I think even one extra episode for both of the stories, the Inquisitor story and the Morgan Elsbeth story, would have just kind of helped. I think a little bit with packing it out a bit more.
Yeah.
It would have felt a little bit less rushed, in my opinion, anyway. It might be that people don't agree with that, but yeah, I would like to see more. Hopefully, we get more from that period as well. We'll have to wait and see what comes.
Definitely.
The other thing we got on May the 4th was a trailer dropped for Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy.
Now, see, we've discussed before on the podcast. Oh, we would love a Star Wars what if. Now, what we weren't all expecting was it to be in the Lego Star Wars universe. We were expecting a animation style like Bad Batch or the Tales series for a what if like Marvel, but no. We get Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. We have Darth Jar Jar.
Oh,
The memes have come true.
No.
Yes.
Don't accept it. No, I mean, they have done quite a few of these Lego Star Wars films. They tend to be, at least a couple that I've seen, tend to be more aimed at kids. So I don't know if I'm going to be watching this one, but, it's going to be on Disney Plus, so I might
It
give
looks
it a try
fun, though, to watch. It does. It really does.
I don't know. We'll see
great.
what happens. I might give it a go. It does look like there's a couple of funny moments, so...
It is going to be on
we'll
Disney
see.
Plus. I was going to say Jay will probably watch this, but then I realised Jay probably doesn't have Disney Plus. Dun dun dun! A Lego thing that he's not going to be able to watch. Oh no! What's he going to do?
The other thing that was, I think it was announced on May the 4th, wasn't it?
Well,
was
I don't know. Anyway, continue.
it was very close, at least. But yeah, they have announced that they will be releasing a new Imperial Star Destroyer kit. I think this is part of their UCS range. It might not be actually.
And that isn't the highlight. The highlight of this entire Star Destroyer is the fact that we have Cal Kestis Lego debut. It's only going to cost you £149.99 for Cal Kestis.
I was wrong. It's not part of the UCS range. It is the normal Lego range. But yes, all right. Tom's going to get very excited because
you're not buying it for the Star Destroyer. You're buying it for Cal Kestis, little Cal Kestis. That's what you're buying it for.
I'm buying it for the Star Destroyer.
Okay, well, that's your money wasted. It's £150 just for Cal Kestis.
That Star Destroyer will go with the slightly out of shot Venator Star Destroyer that I have up there behind me.
It's coming out on 1st of August, and it's going to be 6 inches high, or 16 centimeters high, 46 centimeters long, and 29 centimeters deep. For those that want to, for those on YouTube, I'll be putting one of the Lego Survived images that kind of gets you a bit of a scale. They've got an image of it on a tabletop, so you can sort of see the sort of scale I'm talking about there. Or you could be like Joe, that will probably get your tape measure out and be like, oh yes, that's how much it is.
Tape measure is here. I'm ready to measure things at all times.
Yeah, so some other Lego sets that came out on May 4th were actually this isn't everything, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. We had the Droideka, we had the Mos Esper Pod Race Diorama, we had Darth Maul Sith Infiltrator, we had the Brickheads Commander Cody. While we're on the discussion of Commander Cody, a few months ago, I made a bit of a controversial statement. Because I said I didn't have any Lego Star Wars. Didn't I, Joe? Well, I
still haven't forgiven you for that.
When May 4th came around, my finger slipped. May I present? Okay, I've got a prop today. Because he's sitting on my desk ever since I built him. There is little Commander. It's not. There we go.
Commander Cody that's getting cropped out.
Yeah, Commander Cody. There he is.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. He can go with.
He guards my desk every single day since I built him. So.
He can go with my little Ahsoka.
Your mini Ahsoka has a friend. Has Cody interacted with Ahsoka at all? I don't think they have, actually. I don't think they.
No, I'm sure they have, because...
Off screen, probably.
They've certainly been in the same vicinity, because Cody, Rex, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan have all been in the same area at the same time. So I would be very surprised if they haven't.
Your mini Ahsoka, however, Joe, is still not safe because I will still nick her. Okay. Anyway.
Just on those announcements, the one that I'm very excited for is the Droideka. I really want to get one of those. I love the look of that.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know if this was for May the 4th or just shortly before, because they're also celebrating their, is it 25 years of LEGO Star Wars?
Yes, 25 years. Yeah.
They have also announced they're going to be doing a UCS TIE Interceptor.
And yes,
it is a bit expensive, but I really want one of those.
Yeah.
I love the TIE Interceptor. I would love to get one.
Do you know what? I really like the LEGO sets now that come on a stand.
Yeah.
I really like the look of those because it means it's not something random that you've got to put it on. It already has a stand. Like the Commander Cody, although it's just one single LEGO piece, it's
it's just a flat piece on the bottom, but it
still
works really well.
It's more presentable now when you're putting it on a desk or somewhere. Obviously, that's a very basic example for the brick heads, but everything else has a more proper stand with a little plaque thing, and
I think it's more of a thing for their UCS range because it is supposed to be the very complicated, more adult-oriented.
Yeah, because they're trying to get more adults into LEGO again, and a bit like their Technic range was more for adults.
Yes, no, you're right.
Because I have one of the. They don't sell it anymore. They called it the big red supercar. They just called it. It was just a generic big supercar that they had. I have that. In fact, I think I dismantled it. I need to make it again, but it's in its box somewhere. But they don't make it anymore. But that was my sort of LEGO Technic thing that I have. Yeah.
But you're right. They're doing these kits that are more detailed and more adult oriented because they're a little bit more difficult. But I love them. They look so amazing.
So for those people that think LEGO is just for kids, no, it's really not. Anybody can build anything. Not to mention the prices of these LEGO sets are ridiculous. Anyway, can I talk about Star Citizen now?
Yeah, go on then. I'll allow it.
Right, okay. So, at some point last year, it was probably October time, we had CitizenCon. I talked about some very Gucci, lovely features going to Star Citizen. Some of those features are now live in 3.23 update. In fact, they've released a 3.23.1 update. But anyway, I'm going to go through some of the highlights of these. So there's a brand new character customizer, which is very, very nice. You can now have beards for those that want beards or wish they had a beard or can't grow them.
Me.
Yeah, you can have a fabulous beard. It's got the gradient hair thing as well. I talked about that last time, where you can sort of do the tips and stuff if you want to, or have a bit of a fade. It's so much better than it was. The character customizer is a little bit like The Sims. You can sort of manually adjust bits on your face, a bit like The Sims, if you're familiar with that. Which is really cool. So everyone is looking less generic now, and it's more of a unique thing. Someone's recreated Jared. If you don't know who Jared is, he is sort of the main face of Star Citizen. He does the Inside Star Citizen. He hosts all the live streams and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've recreated him in Star Citizen, so everyone seems to be using him, which is quite funny, and there's a bit of a meme. There's a new UI and Mobi-Glass and star map, which is very nice. I'll put some screenshots on screen for those that are watching the video version of the podcast. So it's basically an overall UI rework. They've done the home, the star map, the contract manager, the mode trader, the knickknacks, and the journal apps. Anything that's on your Mobi-Glass, all completely overhauled, which looks really clean, really nice. As a designer, it looks clean, minimalistic, and just super really nice. It's really good. Just like the new Euro Truck Simulator 2 rework for the UI, which we can't play because ProMods hasn't updated. Makes me mad. Anyway, sorry, tangent on ETS 2. It's similar, it's UI, it's the same sort of thing. Yeah, and they've also implemented now a mini-map for the HUD, as well as an interior map for FPS gameplay, helping players stay orientated in close quarters encounters, and it also means you're less likely to get lost. Joe.
That's just rude.
They've also improved the style map with improved visuals and usability, including easier search and trip planning functionality. I've tested this thoroughly at the moment. It's so much better than the old star map was so dodgy. It didn't work half the time, and now it just works almost flawlessly. And if you wanted to go to a city like Area 18 and you were in New Babbage on Microtech, aka Hoth, you would have to jump to Art Court, and then you'd have to go back in and select Area 18. Now it does all the jumps for you, which is nice. When I was playing Star Citizen with you, Joe, I got to test out the waypoint to a friend that you have in a party. That works basically flawlessly now, from my experience anyway. So that's really nice. So you can really, if you're halfway across the system from your friend that spawned in, you can easily kind of connect with each other then. But yeah, this new UI update is really nice. Next is the new replication error layer and server recovery. So this allows for game servers to recover without disconnecting players, so their progress will not be lost. During crash, a message will display saying the server is recovering, and in this phase it could take as long as 2 to 5 minutes. Now, in one of the sessions, and even the session I did earlier today before recording, I experienced this, and it does exactly what I've just explained. And this is as a result of what Star Citizen players call as a 30k, a server crash. Usually you'd have to completely go back to the main menu and respawn in. This means your game will freeze, and it will actually move the server and you onto a new server without you going to the main menu. And this is what the server recovery is all about, this replication layer, which is very complex tech that nobody else is doing, which is really nice. Yes, it might take 2 to 5 minutes, but do you know what? I'm more than happy to do that, because it means I'm still where I was. Whatever you were doing, if you're flying, it will just kind of freeze the game a little bit, and then it will kind of go back in. I've noticed some bugs when it comes back in, but those bugs sort of recover. For example, I was in the third person view of my ship when I was actually traveling out of atmosphere today. And I then couldn't get back into my first person view through F4. I had to actually get on my mobiGlass to get it back. But when I'd landed where I was going, got out, got back in again of my ship, it actually had recovered it back. So there will be a few bugs. It's Star Citizen. It has bugs. It's in alpha. It's expected. Okay. Yeah. So that's really cool. We like that tech. That's good. Master modes. These were also introduced. So your ships can be basically in 1 or 2 master modes. This is the sort of overhauling flying, which is really cool. So there's nav or SCM. So SCM mode is used for any gameplay that is not traversal, meaning go from A to B. So your shields are functional, your weapons work, and salvaging mining can be used normally. However, your speeds are harshly limited. Versus nav mode is used for traversal, which is when you activate your quantum drive, which will start spooling up, and once completed you can go very fast, around 1 kilometer per second, with your thrusters, and your quantum travel techniques are available to you. However, weapons or shields will be powered and regenerating. However, shields will be ineffective and weapons are not allowed to fire. Now, if your quantum drive does get powered off or becomes distorted, the high speeds will be unavailable again, and your quantum drive in general is very susceptible to distortion damage, so make sure you're not in danger when entering nav mode. This basically means when you're in a fight, you can't just jump away. You have to actually go to it. You kind of have to choose. Do you want to run, or do you want to fight? Because if you want to run and get more speed, you need to go to nav mode. You want more speed? Oh, you can't use weapons and you have no shields. It's that sort of pros and cons. You have this, but you don't have that sort of thing. So yeah, that's sort of masterminds. There was a bunch of other stuff, but those were the sort of things I wanted to highlight for the update, because those are probably the biggest things that were coming, which is really good, because as I keep saying, Star Citizen is producing these technical advancements in gaming that doesn't tend to happen in other games, and it is good to see them develop and choose, and the reason why I want to talk about them on the podcast, because they do look good, and they do, you know, really advance the world of Star Citizen. You know, I remember when I first joined, it was just Port Olisar, RIP, that station doesn't exist anymore, RIP. And you'd spawn in and there was like 3 missions you could do. But now it's completely changed and there's so many avenues you can do, and it's looking really good. Now I'm also going to talk about the Polaris and the roadmap for 4.0. Because the Polaris is a ship that everybody has been very, very excited for. It's a really big Corvette capital ship. And it crews 12 people. So it's a big boy, because it's a Corvette class. And it's officially going to be coming flight ready, as in IAE 2024. So that will be October. Usually, IAE is usually around the time of CitizenCon, which is October time. So, and in fact, there is Invictus at the moment, which means there's free fly. So anybody that doesn't own Star Citizen, you can fly right now for the next couple of weeks. In fact, by the podcast is out, it will be over. So me saying that is absolutely mute. But hopefully you know, and have been part of Invictus. The first couple of days was RSI. Now, RSI, the Polaris, is an RSI ship. You actually got to see the big shell of the Polaris in the Invictus Convention Center. It is big. Joe, you like the Andromeda, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Do you approximately know the size of the Andromeda? Can you sort of visualize it in your brain?
Yes, after we were playing the other day, I went and had a little look around inside one.
Oh, so you've been to Invictus?
No, there was one. You know the ship dealer where we.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember where we ended up.
Oh yes.
There was one sitting out on the.
There is one. Yeah. So I kind of imagine that, but times it by 4 or 6.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that big. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I can get behind that.
Yeah, my friend wants one, and he's planning to upgrade one of his ships to one.
Look, Tom, as I told you the other day, I like big ships. I want many of them. I want an entire fleet of them.
And then he's like, well, I need people to crew this. And I'm like, well, there's me, there's you, there's Tom, and he also wants you as well, by the way, at some point.
Captain?
Yeah. Yeah, so the Polaris is coming, and it's very exciting.
I will be there.
It's got a hangar as well. You know, you went in my Scorpius. It can fit that in it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is cool as well.
What is the sort of the biggest thing it can fit in there then, or do we think?
Well,
it will be
we actually
is it just going to be small ships? Or?
We don't really know. We think it is going to be relatively small ships, but it's a big thing with a kind of small hangar, which is cool, because my friends basically said if we need to deploy a fighter, well, we can deploy my Scorpius, because we reckon it will fit. We don't know yet, but it's one of those things of can it fit when the ship comes out.
Well, I've got a light fighter I can throw in there as well.
Yeah.
Which we found out the other day. And then I can't think of the name of it now. The big white thing that I've got, though. I wonder if that would fit in, because that is the dropship version. So I wonder if I could fit that in there.
You have the Colours Red, the Freelancer, and the Titan, don't you?
Yes,
is that
Titan.
Right? Yeah. Is that what you're talking about, the Titan?
think so.
Yeah.
I'm not good with the names yet. I'm
Sorry,
still
you said big white thing. That thing's a small.
Yeah, look.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it's small, but it's big compared to me.
Yeah, okay. Right. Anyway, 4.0 roadmap is coming to Q3 2024. When I was talking about Q3s earlier today, this is what I was getting confused with. So it will be coming between July, August, and September. So the 4.0 roadmap will have more character customization. That might be more hairstyles or whatever. We're also getting Pyro. Pyro is a new system. A lawless system, by the way. So all the pirates and all of that sort of stuff is in there. So there'll be planets, there'll be jump points, outposts, and space stations, all that kind of stuff in there. And with that, there will be what's called a solar burst, which will really screw you up if you're not in a ship. So there'll be solar bursts in there as well. They're also planning what's called the Quasi-Grazer. The Quasi-Grazer is fauna, because in 3.23 they introduced some fauna. They introduced some sort of bird and some sort of tiger-looking thing. Yeah.
Okay.
But we're basically getting a space cow. That's what that is. There you go, space cow.
Okay, I can get behind that.
Also going to getting the fire hazard. I don't know if you remember me explaining about the fire suppression from October last year. You might vaguely remember.
Yes,
and the fire extinguishing. Yes, so that's meant to be coming in 4.0. The engineering gameplay of all the little modules. Again, I discussed this in the October podcast as well. That's meant to be coming fully. There's a first iteration of engineering in right now in Arena Commander, which you can play around with as well. Life support system's going to be physicalized, so you'll have to take care of that and make sure you have it. Otherwise, you won't live anymore. The RSI Zeus Mark II ES version will also be coming in 4.0. Now, this is interesting. This is one variant of the Zeus. Now, the CL will be coming after. Now, I'm estimating it will be IAE because they said it will still be coming in 2024. And then the MR, which is the bounty hunting version, is coming in potentially 2025, we're thinking. And they're thinking, I'm thinking that they're bringing out the MR later because it's a bounty hunting ship. We don't have proper bounty hunting gameplay yet where you can capture people or AI yet. So I'm thinking they're going to bring in bounty hunting gameplay and bring that in at the same time, because there's no point bringing in another ship with basically no gameplay attached to it. Because they basically said they want to go away from doing that. Because they've got so many of these ships that don't really do stuff.
Yeah.
They're also going to be bringing in the MFD rework, which is all the different screens that you get on your ship where you can customize them a lot more. There's going to be some multi-tool updates as well. And server meshing, which is similar to the server replication, but not quite. So the server meshing is basically... How many players is it per server? Is it at least 60, maybe 80 players? Something like that. Let's say it's 60,
no idea.
Right? They're going to merge it with another server. So it will be 120 or even more.
Oh.
So that's what they're planning to do. So they're trying to streamline the server meshing. So they classify it as a shard. So there will be maybe 2 servers in a shard. And this is why they've got the replication layer as well. So if one server crashes, you get pulled into another one. They eventually want to make sure they will basically want to have one shard. So everybody who is playing Star Citizen in existence to be in one space. That's the ultimate goal.
Okay.
And in order for them to do this, they need to mesh all the servers together to do this. And this is the start of this process.
Right, okay. Yeah.
I hope that kind of makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, so that's their aim, to make this big MMO. So everybody is basically on the same server at the same time. But in order to do that, they need to mesh all the servers together. And that sort of rounds up everything Star Citizen, which I'm very excited for. And the 3.23 update surprisingly has very good FPS. I got 100 FPS earlier. I said Star Citizen. Are you feeling okay? You're giving me more frames than you usually do. Yeah. So that's everything Star Citizen. Now, I wanted to quick mention something before we wrap up today.
Yes.
Next month which is something we may be talking about, probably will be talking about again, because we covered it last year. Xbox Showcase and Ubisoft Forward will be on the 9th and 10th of June, which we'll be covering. Joe, have you got predictions?
Possibly. So there has been a leak recently. There is a Star Wars Total War game coming.
Yes, which I linked to you. Yes.
Oh, you might have. Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos on it since then as well.
Yeah.
But if that is true, I wonder if we'll get something at the showcase.
Yeah.
Because that would be a good way to show it off.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it really is an Xbox game, but it would be nice to see if they did show something off then.
It's made by Creative Assembly. I don't know if Creative Assembly is part of the Xbox family or not. Can't remember.
But the other thing that it would be nice to see, and again, I don't know if this would be in the Xbox showcase, but it would be nice to see an update about Space Marine 2. I'm going to keep asking for updates until it comes out. I hope you realise this. I've ranted about it enough. I need more news. Give me more news. Sorry, I'm fine.
I can imagine them doing it in the Xbox showcase. It is one of those showcases that I can imagine them doing it for.
I just think that Space Marine 2 definitely would be a game that would sell well on Xbox.
Yeah.
So I hope that would.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to see what they do hardware-wise, because they have said they're going to be showcasing something hardware-based come June, which we've briefly mentioned before. When Xbox did that big sort of announcement, because it was around the time where everyone was thinking they're shutting down Xbox and all that kind of stuff. But in that podcast was basically said the next iteration and the potential of maybe a handheld is rumored. So we'll see what happens there. I've already made a prediction. I don't know if it's going to be true or not, but I don't know if you remember, I predicted Forza Horizon 6 might be unveiled at Xbox Showcase this year, because it's 3 years since Forza Horizon 5. Same development life cycle. And they might have another year at it, and I'm hoping we do see Forza Horizon 6. But Forza Horizon 5 is doing very well at the moment. They keep pumping out content, and it is very good. Unlike Forza Motorsport. Anyway, we don't talk about that. Ubisoft Forward. I'm expecting gameplay for Star Wars Outlaws. May be expecting something for the new Assassin's Creed Shadow that's been unveiled. I don't know how much of Assassin's Creed person you are, Joe, but that's been very interesting, and another controversial topic on the internet that we haven't discussed today because we didn't have time to. Yeah, I used to be big on Assassin's Creed. I've kind of gone away from it a little bit, but yeah. So they might be showing more of that potentially. It's hard to say with Ubisoft really. Talking of Ubisoft, they cancelled Division Heartland, by the way. Don't know if you saw.
Oh.
Which is the extraction shooter spin-off game that they were doing.
Yeah.
I did want to play that, unfortunately, but now I don't get to. Yeah. So we'll see what happens next month, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, because we talked about Fable, didn't we, last year? And I'm wondering if we're going to get a Fable update as well. We'll see.
Yeah, it's another one we haven't heard much about.
Yeah, so we'll find that out all next month. Alright, I think that's going to wrap everything up, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, give us a follow, give us a rating or review on the podcast platform of your choice. Give us some feedback as well. Is there anything you want us to discuss? Let us know. Our next podcast is coming on the 26th of June. Obviously, last Wednesday of the month is when we put it out. And you can stay up to date with the podcast by following our socials. So the podcast socials are going to be linked in the description below. Fandom's Edge have our own YouTube, which this podcast will be out on as well, and our own Instagram, so you can follow us there. Us personally can be found on Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Links in the description. I can be found under the name of Maverick RNG, and Joe can be found under FamilarForce. And we will see you in the next one.
On the Fandom's Edge.